Welcome back. FBI Director Kash Patel on defense this morning, denying allegations laid out in a new report detailing his alleged drinking habits and absences from the Bureau. This article in The Atlantic cites more than 24 people, including unnamed current and former FBI officials, who allege excessive drinking and erratic behavior, described as, quote, freakouts from Patel. Several officials cited say Patel is known for, quote, obvious intoxication at private clubs, both here in Washington and in Las Vegas, and that many staffers are just waiting for the announcement that Patel is going to be fired from his post, citing his unreachability and impulsivity. The Atlantic also wrote that President Trump has complained Patel has seemed unprepared for TV appearances and that some investigations he directed Patel to pursue haven't moved quickly enough. Patel took to social media to defend himself, writing in part, quote, no amount of BS you write will ever deter this FBI from making America safe again. Yesterday, he announced on Fox News that, plus his plans to sue The Atlantic for defamation. But notably, he also took time in that interview to promise that the DOJ would soon be making arrests related to the 2020 election. Watch.
Every time I see President Trump, he says this repeatedly, that the election was rigged in 2020. I mean, he says it all the time. We all know that. And it's almost getting lost because he says it so much. You've been at the FBI now 14 months. Have you done anything about that? And do you have anything to tell us about that?
Absolutely, Maria. Look, I've been with the president nearly since day one on this. We've got all the evidence. I can announce on your show that we've got all the information we need. We're working with our prosecutors at the Department of Justice and their Attorney General Todd Blanche, and we are going to be making arrests. And it's coming, and I promise you, it's coming soon.
I want to bring in MS Now senior national security reporter David Rode. David, we're going to dig into why I thought it was so notable that Patel would use that appearance on Maria Bartiromo's show to announce some potential investigations around the 2020 election that Trump lost. But first, I want to focus on this story by our former colleague Sarah Fitzpatrick, where she talked to 24 people for it. And there were a lot of allegations within it. I wonder which stood out to you the most and what you make about the atmosphere that it paints around Kash Patel and the FBI.
First of all, MS Now hasn't been able to corroborate or confirm the specific allegations in the report. But it comes as there's been a series of reporting by our colleagues, Ken Delanian and Carol Leonnig, about how he has conducted himself. One pattern has been that when he's criticized in the press, this was according to the FBI Agents Association, that's sort of the union that represents FBI agents. When he's criticized, there's subsequently been firings, and that this has been firings. There were specific firings recently about FBI agents who were in a counter-espionage unit. This was before the war began with Iran, but those kind of firings, the concerns are from current and former agents that they weaken the country in terms of defending it when it is at war. And so that's one element of his leadership that I think has frustrated folks.
Yeah, I think that's the underlying premise, too, in the Atlantic story, this idea that his behavior allegedly is one thing, but then the impact on the Bureau itself and America's national security is the other, and that's really of paramount importance. But the other piece of this for Patel is how do you end up keeping your job? Because there were large questions looming in the aftermath of Pam Bondi's firing about if Patel was next. And I think when I see him go on Fox News and say, we're going to be making arrests connected to the 2020 election, it does seem like things we've seen other people in his position do to try to shore up their position in Trump's eyes. OK, I'm in a bad place. Let me move on something I know the president cares about.
Yes. And so in terms of the 2020 election, these are old claims by President Trump. His attorney general in 2020, Bill Barr, a deep conservative, disagreed with the president and told the president, you did not win the 2020 election. He subsequently resigned. Chris Wray, who was appointed by President Trump, chosen by President Trump, did not find evidence of any of these crimes that it sounds like Patel says there are going to be arrests regarding. So it's concerning. Many courts have reviewed these claims and dismissed them. So if there are arrests coming, I don't understand what the evidence is. So we just have to see if these arrests actually happen.
I think that's the piece of it, David. For those of us who are watching, whether it's Kash Patel saying arrests are coming around 2020, whether it's Tulsi Gabbard going to the Fulton County Board of Elections, we are watching these embattled Trump officials try to make something out of debunked conspiracy theories. And I wonder, when you put your national security hat on, as it always is, what you see in those attempts as we head into the November elections, where there is widespread concern about what election security might look like and ensuring that elections stay free and fair.
I'm very concerned. Just last week, Tulsi Gabbard made a criminal referral to the Justice Department regarding the first impeachment of Donald Trump. This would be back in his first term, and it was a criminal referral to the whistleblower who alerted first the intelligence community about the call between President Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky. The allegation was that Trump threatened to withhold aid from Ukraine if it didn't investigate Joe Biden at the time. This was a call in 2019. And this criminal referral involved the whistleblower themselves, who's remained anonymous, and then the Inspector General of the intelligence community at that time, Michael Atkinson. He found it to be a credible and urgent threat. That's the definition for what needs to go to Congress, and Atkinson sent it to Congress. But now Tulsi Gabbard has referred them for criminal investigation. It's not definite they're going to be charged, but that's just another example of what you're describing.
Yeah, attempts to rewrite history, despite the fact that courts, as you mentioned, in many of these scenarios around 2020 and in the situation that you're mentioning as well, have found that there's no there. And yet we know it remains a priority of the president. MS Now senior national security reporter David Rohde, thank you as always.